Welcome to the Vitality Equation, exploring research in health and well-being one paper at a time.
Excited to dive into another fascinating piece of research with you both today? I've been particularly looking forward to this one. It touches on some core aspects of how we understand and potentially manipulate biological processes.
Me too. When I first skimmed the title, Structural Basis for Porcupine Inhibition, I thought, okay, this is going to be dense, but the potential implications seem huge, especially when we think about how it might translate into tangible lifestyle interventions.
Absolutely. I mean, at first glance, porcupine inhibition sounds incredibly technical, and well, it is, but the underlying concept that we can potentially influence fundamental cellular processes with targeted interventions is really groundbreaking. Like, what really caught my eye was the potential for lifestyle changes to be part of that intervention, maybe even be enough by themselves.
Right, so for our listeners, porcupine is this enzyme that's crucial for the WNT signaling pathway. This pathway is involved in a ton of different cellular processes, including cell growth, differentiation, and even things like embryonic development. When porcupine is overactive, it can contribute to various diseases, including certain types of cancer. So, inhibiting it is a potential therapeutic strategy.
Okay, so if we can inhibit porcupine, it could help prevent or treat some cancers. That's huge.
Exactly. And what's so interesting about this particular research is that it delves into the structural details of how porcupine inhibitors bind to the enzyme. Knowing the precise structure allows scientists to design even more effective inhibitors, which is the key to actually realizing the therapeutic potential.
Precisely. Think of it like understanding the specific shape of a lock so you can design the perfect key. The structural information gives researchers a much clearer picture of what they need to target. And it's not just about cancer. The WNT pathway is implicated in other diseases too, like fibrosis and some neurological disorders. So, the implications are pretty broad.
Neurological disorders, huh? That's interesting. I was mostly focused on the cancer aspect. So how does this structural knowledge help us get to lifestyle changes? That's where my interest is piqued.
That's where I'm really excited too. I was reading something similar just yesterday. Imagine this. What if we could discover that certain lifestyle factors, diet, exercise, meditation, can subtly influence the structure or function of porcupine or other key proteins in the WNT pathway? Not as dramatically as a pharmaceutical drug, perhaps, but enough to have a preventative or even therapeutic effect.
That's a fascinating idea. It's a bit of a leap, I think, to go from structural biology to lifestyle interventions, but the underlying principle is sound. We know that our genes aren't our destiny. Epigenetics shows us that environmental factors, including lifestyle, can influence gene expression. So it's not entirely out of the realm of possibility that we could find ways to modulate enzyme activity through non-pharmaceutical means.
Yes, and think about the placebo effect. We know that our thoughts and beliefs can have a measurable impact on our biology. So, if we combine that with targeted lifestyle interventions, maybe we can create a sort of enhanced placebo effect that actually influences cellular processes like porcupine inhibition.
I love that. An enhanced placebo effect. That's really compelling. So let's brainstorm some concrete examples. If we're thinking about lifestyle changes that might influence the WNT pathway, what comes to mind?
Well, inflammation is a known driver of many diseases, including cancer. And the WNT pathway is often activated in inflammatory conditions. So, anything that reduces inflammation could potentially have an indirect effect on porcupine activity. That means things like a diet rich in antioxidants, regular exercise, and stress management techniques.
Right. And we know that exercise has a powerful anti-inflammatory effect, especially regular moderate intensity exercise. It helps to regulate the immune system and reduce the production of pro-inflammatory cytokines. So, theoretically, someone at risk of developing a WNT-related disease could potentially lower their risk by incorporating regular exercise into their routine.
And the stress management piece is huge. Chronic stress is a major driver of inflammation, and it can also disrupt hormonal balance, which can further exacerbate WNT pathway dysregulation. So, practices like meditation, mindfulness, and even spending time in nature could potentially have a protective effect.
That reminds me of a study I read recently about the effects of mindfulness meditation on gene expression. The researchers found that regular meditation practice could actually alter the expression of genes involved in inflammation and immune function. It's still early days, but it suggests that there's a real biological basis for the benefits of mindfulness.
Wow, that's incredible. It's like our minds have a direct line to our cells. So, if we're consciously choosing to cultivate a more relaxed and mindful state, we might be able to influence our cellular processes in a positive way.
Exactly. And I think the key is to find specific practices that are most effective at modulating the want pathway. Maybe certain types of meditation are better than others. Or maybe there are specific dietary components that have a particularly strong effect on porcupine activity.
That's where personalized medicine comes in, right? What works for one person might not work for another. We all have different genetic predispositions, different lifestyles, and different environmental exposures. So we need to find ways to tailor interventions to the individual.
Yes, and think about sleep. We know that sleep deprivation can disrupt hormone levels and increase inflammation. So, getting enough sleep is crucial for maintaining a healthy want pathway. But the optimal amount of sleep varies from person to person. Some people thrive on 7 hours while others need 9.
And the timing of sleep is important too. Circadian rhythm disruption has been linked to increased risk of various diseases, including cancer. So maintaining a consistent sleep-wake schedule is key. I always try to sleep at the same time.
That's a really good point. And it's not just about the quantity and timing of sleep. It's also about the quality. Things like sleep apnea and restless leg syndrome can significantly disrupt sleep quality, even if you're getting enough hours in bed.
Okay, so we've got diet, exercise, stress management, and sleep. What else? Are there any other lifestyle factors that might influence porcupine activity or the want pathway?
I was just thinking about environmental toxins. We're constantly exposed to a cocktail of chemicals in our air, water, and food. Some of these chemicals can disrupt hormone function and promote inflammation, which could potentially affect the want pathway.
Right. Endocrine disruptors are a major concern. These are chemicals that can mimic or interfere with the body's hormones. They're found in everything from plastics to pesticides to personal care products.
So, reducing our exposure to environmental toxins is another way to potentially protect our want pathway. That means things like choosing organic food, using natural cleaning products, and avoiding plastic containers.
Exactly. And it's not just about avoiding toxins, it's also about supporting our body's natural detoxification processes. Things like drinking plenty of water, eating fiber-rich foods, and sweating through exercise can help our bodies eliminate toxins more efficiently.
That's a really comprehensive approach. So, to recap, we've talked about diet, exercise, stress management, sleep, and environmental toxins. All of these lifestyle factors can potentially influence the 1A pathway and, by extension, porcupine activity.
But the big question is, how do we know if these lifestyle changes are actually working? How do we measure their impact on porcupine activity or the want pathway?
That's the million-dollar question. It's not like we can just go in and biopsy someone's cells to measure porcupine activity. We need to find non-invasive ways to assess the impact of lifestyle interventions on the want pathway.
One possibility is to use biomarkers. These are measurable substances in the blood, urine, or other bodily fluids that can indicate the activity of a particular biological pathway. There are already some known biomarkers for want pathway activity, but we need to find more sensitive and specific ones.
And we also need to develop better imaging techniques. Imagine if we could use MRI or PET scans to visualize porcupine activity in real time. That would be a game changer.
That would be amazing. But in the meantime, we can still use indirect measures to assess the impact of lifestyle interventions, things like measuring inflammation levels, hormone levels, and even cognitive function. All of these factors can be influenced by the want pathway.
Arford. And we can also use self-reported measures. Things like questionnaires and surveys can give us valuable insights into how people are feeling and functioning. But we need to be careful about the placebo effect. People might report feeling better simply because they believe that the intervention is working.
That's why it's so important to use control groups in research studies. We need to compare the effects of the intervention to the effects of a placebo or a standard treatment. That's the only way to know for sure if the intervention is actually working.
Absolutely. And we also need to be mindful of the Hawthorne effect. This is the tendency for people to change their behavior simply because they're being observed. So we need to design studies that minimize the Hawthorne effect.
It's a really complex puzzle, isn't it? But I think the potential payoff is huge. If we can find ways to modulate the want pathway through lifestyle interventions, we could potentially prevent or treat a wide range of diseases.
Yeah, and it's not just about disease prevention, it's also about optimizing our health and well-being. Imagine being able to use lifestyle interventions to enhance our cognitive function, boost our energy levels, and improve our mood.
That's the ultimate goal, isn't it? To live longer, healthier, and happier lives. And I think this research on porcupine inhibition is a really important step in that direction.
So let's bring this back to how this understanding of structural inhibition can be applied more directly to our respective fields. Thinking about cognitive processes in CBT, if porcupine inhibition can actually induce structural changes, could we explore personalized therapies that account for individual brain structures and cognitive profiles? That could help us optimize CBT protocols for individual outcomes. I'm thinking of things like, could we, through imaging, see how specific CBT techniques change things or are more effective in certain brain areas? That could lead to truly personalized CBT.
That's fascinating. And from my perspective, thinking about exercise and sleep, it's now even more clear that these aren't just about physical health. We need to look at how they synergistically impact porcupine mechanisms on a deeper level. Can we develop exercise and sleep protocols that proactively encourage neuroplasticity for better cognitive function? Maybe specific exercise routines tailored to different sleep stages could optimize both physical and mental recovery. It really makes me think we need a more integrated approach.
Absolutely. From my perspective, thinking about lifestyle and meditation, I'm wondering if we can find more concrete ways these insights can translate into real-world health improvements. If porcupine inhibition can be improved through lifestyle, what are some potential practical applications for people struggling with specific health conditions? And how can meditation practices, specifically focusing on present moment awareness, be used to modulate the impact of porcupine inhibition on the body? Could mindfulness reduce potential side effects or even enhance effectiveness? It feels like we're just scratching the surface of understanding the mind-body connection here.
Okay, so thinking about future research directions from my perspective, I'd really love to see studies that investigate the link between specific cognitive distortions, the kind we target in CBT, and the structural function of porcupine. Could we identify specific cognitive patterns that are directly related to how porcupine functions? And if so, could we then develop CBT techniques to target those patterns by influencing porcupine structure? That would be amazing.
For me, I think the most promising avenue for future research is in personalized exercise and sleep protocols. We need to figure out how to tailor these interventions to individuals' specific needs and preferences. Can we use genetic testing or other biomarkers to identify people who are more likely to benefit from certain types of exercise or sleep strategies? And can we develop wearable devices that track our sleep and exercise patterns in real time and then provide personalized feedback and recommendations?
And from my perspective, I'm really interested in exploring the potential of mindfulness and meditation to modulate the want pathway. I'd love to see studies that investigate the effects of different types of meditation on inflammation, hormone levels, and cognitive function. And I think it's also important to study the potential of mindfulness to reduce stress and improve sleep quality. These are all key factors that can influence the want pathway.
You know, it occurs to me something that links all of our future directions is the need for more interdisciplinary research. We need to bring together experts from different fields, biologists, psychologists, exercise physiologists, meditation teachers, to tackle these complex questions. No one field has all the answers. We need to collaborate and share our knowledge.
I completely agree. And we also need to involve patients and the public in the research process. They have valuable insights and experiences that can help us to design more effective and relevant interventions. It shouldn't just be top down, the scientists telling people what to do. It needs to be a collaborative process.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's also important to communicate our findings to the public in a clear and accessible way. We need to empower people with the knowledge they need to make informed decisions about their health and well-being. These are complex issues, but we can't shy away from them. We need to make this information accessible and empowering for everyone.
Well, this has been an incredibly enlightening conversation. I feel like we've really explored the potential of this research and identified some exciting avenues for future investigation.
Me too. It's amazing how much we can learn by diving deep into these scientific papers. It's easy to just skim headlines, but really getting into the details, it makes such a difference.
Agreed. It's so inspiring to see how science is unlocking the secrets of the human body and mind. And it gives me hope that we can all live healthier and happier lives by making informed choices and taking care of ourselves. Thanks for the conversation. This was a fun one.
Thanks everyone for listening. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep striving for vitality.